It's very fragile to live in a human body.
It is.
Did I ever tell you, this is just like a funny anxiety story, not like, it's not sad.
Okay.
Sometimes I say this and people are like, oh no, because they're taking
Okay.
it too seriously.
Okay.
But when I was like max anxiety in the post-traumatic stress
Yes.
chunk of my life, I got really acutely aware of the fact that I don't have an exoskeleton. I was like, yeah, you know, like sometimes bugs have like a skeleton on the outside that covers and protects them. I was like, this body is absurd.
Okay.
This design is ridiculous. No exoskeleton. And my skin has holes in it. My skin is covered in tiny holes, and I would like freak out sometimes, being just like, the sun can just burn it. You can just pass things through it. My skin has holes and I have no shield. It was just this like
You needed a shield at that point in your life.
like an exoskeleton to just go over my body, so no one could hurt it.
Oh,
But I was like really obsessed with like, did you guys know that skin has holes?
that's how you became the boundaries lady, because you're like obsessed with the lack of physical boundaries.
Probably.
Yeah. Okay.
That's just the thing.
I'm happy to be here with you.
No, it got sad.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
do you want to tell a funny story in case that one's too sad when
no,
we
that
get
was
into the edit?
perfect.
Okay.
No, that was the perfect story for that. No, I don't think I have any funny stories to add to our list. I just went to the store. I needed black shoes for the thing I'm going to tonight. Black size 8 high heels.
Okay.
So basic. I thought the most basic. I'll go to one store, find whatever pair is affordable. And I felt like I was being pranked. I went to store after store after store. At one point, I'm in store number 6.
No.
And they were all out of size 8 in black heels. I was like, what is going on? So I guess I learned my lesson that you should buy them online. Is that what you should do?
Yeah.
But the hard thing about shoes is, or with anything, I guess some people are great online shoppers, but you have to try things on.
I think some people are great online returners.
I'm horrible. I'm the worst.
That's the real danger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm horrible.
I do some personal assisting for someone who orders a lot on the internet.
Okay.
And if you want to order a lot on the internet, you should get a personal assistant.
Seriously.
It seems nice. She just gets whatever she needs.
Okay.
And then I show up and I'm like, what packages are we taking today?
Really?
Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh my gosh. Yes, that would be very cool.
That's
because
the way.
I bought pants when Jules was born. I just told Instagram this. They were the wrong size. And I've been wearing them for the last 2 years.
Wow.
They're too small. So I can wear them standing up straight, sucking in a little. So I was, but I started getting stomach aches.
Yeah.
And
Just squishing your guts.
yeah, squishing. I think I have an image, a photo. It's a long week.
I've captured an image.
I've captured an image on my device. I'd be happy to show you at some point. That it was just me realizing like the pants I was wearing required me to tuck myself into them,
Whoa.
which should be the red flag that Jessica needs to just get rid of the pants. At that point, I don't think they're returnable because I've been wearing them so much. So anyway, all that to say, this week I bought new pants, but I didn't risk doing it online. I just went and I tried them on. And
Where are you going to stores? I don't even know where stores are.
Glendale Galleria is across the street from Glendale Americana.
Yes.
And both are malls and they have many stores. And for pants, I really like Zara jeans. They fit nicely when you get the right size.
Perfect.
Definitely recommend getting. Oh, but Zara jeans, guys, get a size bigger than you normally wear in pants. So if you had a baby, then get 2 sizes bigger. Like if you're expanding, that's fine, but then just go bigger, which I didn't realize. So now I've learned that. Bought 2 new pairs of pants, different styles, but both sizing up.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Oh, we should start. Okay. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to our podcast. I'm Jessica Hover.
I'm Lane Dealing-Cherland, and this is Very Good Enough, a podcast from Very Good Mothers Club.
Today, we are going to be talking about...
We're going to be talking about parenting as a creative act.
I love that. And what's cool is that we haven't planned this ahead. I mean, we've thoughts, but we have not premeditated this conversation. So it's going to unfold right here with you now, which as we've been doing this, those are my favorite podcast episodes.
Yeah.
The one that are just you and I talking real thoughts about real things.
Yeah, me too.
So
we're standing in my kitchen right now getting coffee.
Yes.
Afternoon coffee, which we don't usually have on the podcast. Pause for a sip. And
thank you.
And we were reflecting a little bit on one of the episodes that we just did, which is about relationships. You guys will have heard it a few weeks ago. And you were talking about, the idea that marriage, nobody's ready for the boredom element of really anything in life that lasts a long time. And we were talking about it in terms of relationships, but it's kind of everything.
Yeah. And how it's like beyond not being ready for it. It's like we're not aware that that's what it is that's disappointing us, that we're feeling a bit bored. We're experiencing boredom, boring things inside of stuff that we love. So like you have a baby and having the baby is not boring, but there's a lot about caring for a baby that can be experienced as boredom in your body. But what Sean and I were talking about this week is how sometimes you're bored and you don't even realize that's the sensation you're feeling because you're tired or because you're busy.
Right.
So just that feeling of like you can actually be bored in a relationship or in a job or in some sort of role or responsibility you have. And you don't really know that that's the problem. So then you start being like, well, I guess the job's the problem or the person I'm with is the problem. But maybe we're just understimulated or like need some new adventure or need something. There's a need somewhere.
Yeah.
But also boredom is so good for you. When you understand that you're bored, that's awesome because that's where creativity gets to come. So if you protect yourself and your kids from boredom, you actually also hinder a really important creative process. And I think about that with my kids a lot. If they've been stimulated a lot by like a show or someone, sorry, you'll have to edit that or leave it in. If they've been entertained by someone else, so they haven't had to do much imagining themselves, they've just been led through this process. Then once they're done, they're like, I don't know what to do. What should I do? And I love it. I'm like, that's great. What are you going to do? Yeah. That's so healthy. Feel that. And I'm sure Eloise is like, I hate this. Strong word, but you get it. But it's so important to recognize boredom and then get through it to the creativity that lives on the other side of boredom.
Yeah.
But if we don't know we're bored, then we don't know how to be creative on the other side of it.
Right.
We just think this life is the problem, this existence.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of that is about, I feel like what you're describing is like a need for reframing where we like feel, what we feel is I feel this feeling of unsatisfaction. I feel this like bland taste in my mouth or like it feels beige. It feels beige everywhere. And so I need to fix and put more things in when in fact the putting all the things in is part of what leads to life being a little unsatisfying. And it's kind of abdicating your own agency, if you will. Like what you're describing Eloise arriving at is like, wonderful, you found the moment where like power is now back in your hands to decide how to fill your time. Like you've arrived at your own agency. Excellent. Now you get to practice and learn to like reach inside and find what's in there and meet the world with it.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a thing that I talked to teachers about kind of a lot, but I think it can be really potent for mothers or particularly like parents who are at home with kids a lot, because you can feel overstimulated and unsatisfied at the same time. And that is its own kind of bored where like one part of you is buzzing and tired, but then like a deeper and inside part of you is like hungry and flat. And I feel that there's a lot of parents talking about how parenting now it can be sort of like a sap of creativity because you're with these children now, and whatever your creative thing was before, now there isn't time for that, or now you're split away from that, or even just like my mind is so focused on these kids that I couldn't, even if there was time, I couldn't find it to focus on the old thing that used to be creative. So I want to speak a little bit to tapping into the wealth of resource that you have inside that creative drive that used to go to other things, and looking to that same place for like infusing life and satisfaction into your relationship with your child. Because there's a very cool reciprocal thing that can happen, like that being like, I accidentally talk a lot about reciprocal relationships. It's like a early childhood education term, and it just means that it goes in a circle.
Okay.
Like what goes out to me goes into you, and then something comes back toward me.
Okay.
As opposed to a relationship that would be like one-sided.
Got it.
Which we also think often of adult to child relationships as being one-sided, like the adult just gives toward the child, but ideally it creates this beautiful relationship loop, that's just true of like all human relationships too, but it's also true with children. So having a child, first you have to create this person, right? And I feel like we sometimes skip back over or kind of forget about how like marvelous that is, that like with consciousness and biology, you've like co-created a whole new human life. Like all you did was have sex, probably the same sex that you usually have, or you visited a doctor and had a little procedure. Sure. And then like bing, suddenly this other thing happened, like life force existed in this way that we still can't quite explain. Like we got the steps nailed down, but then also there's this moment where like, whew, now there's a little flame. And there just wasn't a little flame before. And what you're doing right now is like gently sort of blowing on and putting little kindling into, and then starting to put bigger and bigger logs on this little fire so that it can grow and grow into like its own, here's a word, conflagration. How about that?
Conflagration.
Like the biggest fire.
Is that what that means?
Yes.
The biggest fire.
Fire that like spreads and burns and takes over, uncontainable.
Okay.
Right? So you have this little person with their little light inside. And the day with a child can be so dull in so many spots. It can be really frustrating and super heightened, and then it just drops down into this place that whatever this place is what made me hate nannying.
Okay.
I love teaching preschool and I hate nannying.
Really?
There's something about being the only adult with just like a couple of little children, and they're like looking at you like, make it fun. And it can feel like it feels very uncreative a lot of the time. It doesn't feel easy to make something creative or special happen. And then if you're doing that day after day, it's like, man, we just go through this rote situation all day long.
Totally.
And then if you're the mom, you have them at nighttime too.
We sure do.
Wild. But that's not what their life feels like.
Yeah.
Their life from their perspective is just like, it's almost like if you could imagine like opening little goggles on like a whole new world, or like the moment that people step out of a spaceship onto like a new planet, and it gets all quiet and you hear the little sounds, and the director of the movie is trying to get you to be like, it's cold here. Oh, look, the gravity's different here. They're trying to like make you explore this new world and this new space. And it is still new for them. Their body is still changing every 2 seconds, and they're like, whoa, my balance is different. Yeah. Like every couple months they learn new words. Like everything is new for them all the time, and they're in this like really explorer mindset all the time. And some of that is the social exploring, and that's where you get the like, can I just make this adult meet all my needs? Because that's part of what they're exploring. But what you have the opportunity to do with children in their like early life particularly is you get to introduce them to a whole new world, like this entire space, and you have knowledge about it. Like you're a guide to the new world for them. And it can be very exciting. And a lot of the creativity of that is in the minutia, is in like the little pieces of like, what is interesting for you? What do you, child, not know about this thing that's happening right now? Like even the idea that you could brush carpet this way and it makes it a different color than if you brush it back this way with your hand. You know, if you can tap into the mindset that says like whatever little thing that we're doing that feels boring, like it's almost like the same as when you're in that chaos that we were talking about a while back of like when it's swirling all around you, like let it fall. Oh, you're in this bored space where everything feels really taut. Okay, now's the time to be like, I'm so bored. What can I hear? What do I see to like clue into like, okay, now it's time to explore your environment and explore this human and start to notice like really what are they looking at? Also, what am I looking at? What is of interest to me in this room? If it's I notice that my plant is dying, wonderful. You just found an hour and a half of shit to talk about with your kid because plants are crazy. Right? Like the plant that's behind you has a little baby plant that's unfurling. Like your child could peel apart the little fingers of this monstera, and like they can stick their fingers into the dirt and try to count how many knuckles down it's wet or not and how much you should water, and then they can carry the little thing. Like a whole world can happen out of like, I'm very bored in here. Everyone's so dry and boring that even these plants are dead and dying. You know?
Yeah.
How does that feel when I say that to you? And you're like,
it feels so exactly right to how the experience is. And I even thought it back when we talked about the chaos, something is still true that was true then, which is change perspective. Like even if that means you're standing up and you're bored, or you're standing up and you're swirling in chaos, lay down on the floor and let the kid think that's hilarious and lay on you. And in that moment, try to like align yourself with yourself, like get back inside your body because we do a lot of detaching from our body and just hustling around trying to meet everybody's needs. But like take a second to be in the moment where you're at. And then as much as you might feel bored or isolated or understimulated, or maybe there's grieving a life that you once had in early motherhood. I hear that a lot is like the memory is still so very fresh of life pre-kid. So you start to go places. Well, before I had this child, I would easily go here with this person, or my friends are there and I would go do that. And that makes those feelings worse. But if you can like take a second, get back into your current experience, which is exactly what I hope my kids will do when they're bored. So I'm like, okay, we'll be here in this room. What's in this room? Let's look around. What do we see? It's the same exact practice. And then Louise is, I see those blocks over there. Oh, cool. Perfect. Let's grab those and see what happens next. Same practice. And in that, creativity is born.
Right.
And you do special things. That's how songs get written and, art gets made.
Yeah. A magic question that this is useful for extending a child's independent play as well. We get a lot of questions about like, how do I get this kid to play by themselves? But like magic for all kinds of creativity, whether you're like a screenwriter or a preschool teacher or whatever, is what else can we do with it?
Oh, interesting.
I do see that you have that. What else could we do with that? Yeah, we totally built towers, knocked it down, built towers. What else could we do with these blocks? And that gets you into this thing of like, ooh, outside of its whatever the face value use of the thing that we're using or the moment that we're in, it just is like a little bit of a juicy.
Totally. That's great. And then you start to think, well, yeah, you think creatively, but also guys, as your kids get older with their siblings, they start doing stuff that's creative that you're like, whoa, I never would have thought to do that with those blocks. But I don't know if this is a tip or not, but obstacle courses with items in the house, especially during the winter where we've had some rainy days, nothing crazy. We live in LA. The weather's really not bad, but there are some days where it's like loading all three of them in the car is just feels overwhelming. So obstacle courses in the house was something we looked around our living room. We're like, how could we use these couch cushions differently? And blocks become like lines that they jump over and different things. I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Even just regular everyday items that are super boring to you, super boring to them. You got diapers like crazy. You got like regular things that you have to use. Even food, you have to eat your meals. You have to make food. But like, what else can we do with this?
Totally.
Suddenly things turn into stacks. everything turns into stacks, just to be clear. That's the first answer to that question is we could stack them on top of each other. Cool. So what else can we do with it?
After we stack it and knock it down?
Can, which you got to do. Those are the two basic things, right? Yeah. You got to try the handle. You got to check your purse for the keys. Like you got to stack them. You got to knock it down.
True.
Great. What else can we do with it? Where else could we have our lunch? Could we have our lunch upside down? You're right. Upside down is another big one. We've drawn with everything that we possibly have, all of our art supplies. Great. Can we tape them to the bottom of the table? And now you can make some upside down art.
Oh my gosh, that's
literally
cute.
The easiest thing in the whole wide world.
Wow.
You can make it the Sistine Chapel if you want to, or you can just be upside down.
Wow, that's really
Both
great.
Are fine.
Yeah. Also in the bathtub, if you have a bathtub, so many activities can be done in the bathtub, and there's suddenly new activities.
Jess, you don't even need me. That's my number one piece of advice.
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, because you all hate mess. Every single one of you is like, that's so fun. Can I teach my child how to live in this world and have everything be clean?
Yeah.
And my answer is no.
No.
But you can take the whole thing and put it in the bathtub, and then you can just hose off this child and hose off this everything.
Yeah. And if you want to keep them there for a few minutes, you freeze juice and make popsicles, and then do popsicles in the bathtub.
Genius.
And then you can go do whatever you want to do and come back. And they, well, to be fair, I can see my bathtub from my bedroom and the living room, and from the kitchen I can glance. It's a perk of living in a small home with the bathroom like in the center, very awkwardly placed in the center. But bathtub, popsicles, really good.
Where else can we do this? What else can we do with it? Where could we move this?
Yeah.
Because you're not just filling their time. You're neither just filling their time, nor are you wasting your time. You could do either of those things, but what you are doing is like stoking little fires. What you are doing is growing new people and introducing absolute aliens to their home planet, really. Right?
It's true.
It's remarkable, and it's a huge privilege, and it really changes the way that you can see your home planet.
Yeah.
Because you too are still growing and still exploring this planet as a person who's now this age and now in this system of life. Totally. Right? It's all just a big experiment with your existence.
So good for your brain and so good for your body. That's something I try and tell myself. It's like, this is so good for me to also feel bored with them and need to figure out how to make this fun.
Yeah.
And as much as it can be like, oh my gosh, my life is forever making snacks, cleaning up snacks, making messes, cleaning up messes. Yes. It's really not forever. It's gonna pass. Like, this season, as much as it feels so long, because it really does, it passes, and then we get to the new things. And by being creative with our kids, it's not just building connection between you guys and teaching them how to be little healthy explorers of the world around them, but it's building good things in you too that you guys will then carry into the next season. That's really important.
Yeah. And if you're a person who plans to go back to a creative life or back into the business world, people who are parents return to the workforce so incredibly equipped to problem solve and creative think and like do like social management and project management. Like you're going back into the things or forward into the next things very, very equipped, because this assignment is going to end.
Yes.
And you're going to have another act after this.
Yeah, probably a couple. Yeah. That's so true. I was actually thinking today that it makes sense that I keep seeing these women become like major bosses of companies. I was thinking about one particular woman who is in charge of many, many, many things in a business sense, and she's a mom. And I was like, man, she probably learned so much leadership through motherhood, because you are constantly caring about so many details all at once and keeping things up and floating and working and making sure nobody dies. And like, it's a huge amount of responsibility. And it's something to be really proud of if you are the CEO of your family, essentially, right? But then it makes sense that someone like that, once their kids are grown and they are no longer as needed in that role in the household, would then go and take those skills and get paid a lot of money for them because they are the type of skills people pay for. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and if it's art, for you to come back to art from the space of having made life, like you've literally partnered with life, whatever life force is, like whatever the thing is that makes the plants grow and the water fall from the sky, like you have gone through the cycle of being with that and like bringing new life into the world and growing it up into maturity, watching emotions grow, like
totally
getting that close up perspective on like tiny eyes widening over and over and over as new things come in. Like nothing could be more inspirational to your art.
Absolutely. And one thing I hear often is from moms who feel discouraged after having a baby that they aren't feeling creative. I felt that very much. And I listened to a podcast recently with Guy Raz and Zooey Deschanel, and she said same thing after she had her babies, that she felt like it just flipped her whole world upside down. And she was like a little bit shell shocked by that. And in processing some of this, I was thinking that it makes sense that after creating possibly the biggest thing we've ever created, because it's physically, you have made something and it took time. You've made someone beyond something, someone. And it makes sense that all of your mind, body, soul, everything has been poured into this. And in the year or so after, you're still recovering from that and adapting to that. And it's funny to be like, I don't feel creative, when the reality is you are creative. You're creating every single day of this process. Yes, you may not then also have creative energy to go do your passion or skill or gift, whatever those things are, but you are being creative every single day. And then eventually things just sort of even out inside of you, where you're able to both create this life with your kids and use those other things that have been developing in you. This was amazing. Shall we roll into the question?
Yeah.
We got a couple questions and they're basically the same. And they're asking, how do you balance your life with your kids and anything else, everything else, work or friendship or relationships or anything? And I have made a whole YouTube video about this, so you're welcome to go watch it if it's interesting to you. But basically, you don't do everything all at once. You do what you're able to do, and you receive help in the areas you're able to receive help in. In the very early stages of motherhood, where you're maybe feeding around the clock, you're not getting any sort of consistent sleep, there's not much balancing that's going on. You're very much in that zone, and that's all, and that's okay. And actually, my advice for moms in that season is just let yourself be there. Like, let everything else fall, let other people do what they can do, and keep that little baby alive and keep yourself alive, because that is really like 24/7 all consuming in the early days. As people start sleeping better, you'll get more time. One of the things that makes all of this harder is we put a pressure on ourselves to get more done than perhaps we are actually able to get done in the time of life that we're in. So maybe we're in a time, one of the moms who wrote me was like, my baby is taking super short naps. Some moms say they're taking super short naps and they're taking naps in the mama's arms. So she's never getting time away from that little one. What I would encourage then is, as much as possible, don't expect yourself in that time of life to also be doing a whole bunch of other stuff. If you want to be doing other stuff, that's where you'll probably need to hire someone or invite a loved one to come hold your baby or be with your kids so that you can do other things. I don't do everything by myself. So if I'm working, it's because Sean is with the kids. We don't have a consistent babysitter in this season of life. We've had one babysitter that we used, I think like one in the whole year or something. And we paid her one time. Maybe I'm wrong on that. We used to have someone who lived with us who was a nanny. Excuse me. So when we had that, we had a nanny, and the way that we afforded that was by renting out the room to her for nothing and then paying a very small amount. So it was basically looking at the minimal resources we had. What do we have to offer? We have to offer a guest room in Los Angeles. Would you like it? In exchange, will you watch our kids for a certain number of hours a week? And then we didn't ask beyond that. We were trying to honor the roommate thing. Sorry, I'm saying this badly. Basically, we were trying to honor the relationship there, right? And so not just be like, come live with us and then just watch our kids all the time. My point is you get creative based on what the needs of the family are. So in that time we needed the extra help. Once that person was no longer available to watch our kids, we rearranged our life to where Sean watches the kids day to day, Monday through Friday while I'm working. And then if he needs me to watch them so he can go do something, then we switch off. We don't do everything. Nobody does everything.
Yeah.
People get help. And if they don't have help, they don't do the other things. And then remind yourself, this is seasonal. So like the season where our little baby is not sleeping very well, it is not a super long one. Feels long, but not super long. So some of the things we want to be doing, they'll be there on the other side of these 6 months or whatever we're in. And then if you're really struggling with sleep, if you feel like that's the thing that's hindering you from being able to get stuff done, is you don't have any solidified like nap times and people aren't sleeping well through the night, then I would look into some sort of sleep training or sleep guidance to help. But you just might have a little baby who, for the first year of life, is loving being with you during sleep. And that happens sometimes. Yeah. So that's, I guess, my answer. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. I think the only thing I would add is that a lot of the experience of balance in life is actually like an emotional balance, which you've done a great job of touching on, both acceptance and prioritizing.
Yeah.
Of accepting, like, this is the phase of life that I'm in right now. This is where my primary focus is going to be. I'm going to do my very best, and a lot of things are going to fall.
Totally.
Like, a lot of things are going to fall.
That's so helpful. Yeah.
A lot of communication is going to go by the wayside. There's going to be a lot of like, hey, I didn't get back to you. Not even I'm sorry.
Sure.
But I'm just getting to this now, and here's the thing. But knowing like the emotional acceptance inside of having, like, knowing that ahead of time and saying, like, that is the case. Like, this is just the human case. I'm doing a huge all-consuming thing.
Yeah.
So for now, it's going to be this way. And then if there are whatever the things are that do exist in your life and need to stay, it's selecting those things very specifically and maybe working on one at a time.
Totally. That's great. You just said that so well. And I'm thinking for myself, sometimes it changes like every few weeks where I'll think, okay, the amount that I'm carrying right now, we can do. But if I find that every day at the end of a day, I'm disappointed in myself because I didn't do enough, then what I've learned to let that tell me is I'm actually trying to do too much, because there's no way for me to do more than I'm able to do if I'm really being intentional about the stuff that I have on my plate. I shouldn't be at the end of my day feeling like I failed. All that would mean is I have an unrealistic expectation of what I am able to do right now in my life. So at some points I've had, okay, wow, every day this week I have not been able to get done what I need to get done. Maybe I bring that to Sean and I tell him, because maybe I need to rearrange my life a little bit. Is there a way that I'm doing this that is like taking my time and I'm not using it in the best way, right? He knows, we do this together. But now we've been going at this long enough that it's usually me over scheduling myself, or even if it's not like a legit schedule that I've written, it's in my head like, okay, I'm going to do so many things today. And then I don't get them done. And then it's coming back to what you're describing, the acceptance of like, okay, this is the time I'm in. What are the few things that I want to make my priority? And then some weeks you'll do all of those things and you'll still have more bandwidth, and you'll be like, oh, cool. This is also when I'm going to call that friend I've been thinking of, but haven't been able to reach out to. And then some weeks, not so much. You'll just take care of whatever's right in front of you, probably your little ones. And that's good enough. Yeah.
And if you need a place to start, maybe start by making lists at the end of the day of everything that you did, so that number one, you can feel really accomplished by the amount of stuff that you did do. Because the worst feeling ever is being like, my day felt so full and I got nothing done. But just being like, look at the way that these tasks, oh yeah, that's where my time went. And then also you can be noticing like, oh, actually I'd like my time to go somewhere else, because you can kind of see your pattern. So sort of affirming yourself and getting a little bit of info.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys are doing so good. Good luck on the creativity thing. Really, from a practical standpoint, if you have ideas for things that are working with you and your kids, and maybe some of us should know, like the bathtub thing, what is working? Tell us, because the moms who are reading these comments, we are in need of ideas and would love to hear from you. And if you have questions that you want us to answer on this podcast, please DM us. We would love to be able to do that for you.
Yeah, all of our info is in the show notes. I'll also link the YouTube video that you mentioned about balance. If you guys want to watch that, that'll be in the show notes as well.
Cool. Okay. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you soon. Bye.